the Don organization?
So Walk the Don isn't so much of an organization as it actually is a program. It was started by the Don Watershed Regeneration Council as well as Toronto Region Conservation Authority. It was created as a way to get people more interested in the ravine system in Toronto and into Vaughan as well. And yeah, just getting people into the ravines and excited about the ravines and exploring the ravines, because a lot of people don't know that they can actually go down there. The Walk the Don program, it was one of the priorities that was identified by the Don Watershed Regeneration Council. So this was a group of people that they got together in the 1990s as a way to look at different ways that they could improve the Don and work towards regenerating the Don. And there were a group of people that were, trying to think if they all applied to be on it. So it was a combination of people who are community members, as well as some representation from different city councils. And so they would apply to be on it, and they would get together on a monthly basis and identify different priorities. And one of them was the fact that people weren't using the park space that was around them. So this was one of the methods that they identified as a way to get people into the park. The Bartley Smith Greenway is one of the areas that they identified as a priority spot for regeneration. So it was in, I believe, the early 1990s that the Anne Bartley Smith Foundation, or no, not foundation, the Anne Bartley Smith Estate, they donated a large sum of money to help regenerate that section of the West Don. The Bartley Smith Greenway, it's a 15-kilometer section. It actually starts up at Major Mackenzie and goes all the way down to Steeles. It's not a continuous trail at this point. The end goal would be for it to become a continuous trail. Right now you can go through portions of it, and then you have to go back up onto surface streets and find your way back onto the trail. But I guess the most famous part of it would be the more southern part of it. That's where you'll find KEFFER Marsh and a lot of the work that was done to regenerate it. So it's a much more, it's a healthy ecosystem, or a much more healthy ecosystem than it used to be, and that's a big thanks to, or how can I put this? It's as a result of a partnership between Toronto Region Conservation Authority, the City of Vaughan, as well as the Chamber of Commerce of the City of Vaughan. It was really spurred by the Anne Bartley Smith estate. So she was, I should mention, she was a resident of the Newmarket Aurora area. She was a well-known environmentalist. She's in that region, she donated a lot of the property that she owned to conservation, and made sure that in her will that a lot of her estate went towards more conservation purposes. So that was what sort of, I guess, instigated it. But it was the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, as well as the City of Vaughan, the Chamber of Commerce, and as well as a number of private donors. And then once the wheels got in motion to start the regeneration of that area, it was a lot of the community actually came in and did a lot of the plantings. A lot of the trees you'll find there were planted by local residents, local groups, different businesses and things like that. So the LANGSTAFF Eco Park, and that is a really, that's kind of the gem, I'd say, of the Bartley Smith Greenway Trail. And that's where you'll find the KEFFER Marsh. That was a constructed wetland. It's about 2 hectares, and it was first constructed in the mid-1990s. So when you go back there now, it's really become a much more established marsh. So it's really interesting to see that progression from a fairly degraded ecosystem to a much more vibrant one now. Yeah, so it is in a ravine. So you are going to be walking along the West Don River for quite a bit of it. So you are going to reach a lot of wetlands, like I was saying before. There's the KEFFER Marsh. You do also cross into some meadow habitat area. And in those kinds of areas, it's extremely biodiverse. You don't usually think of meadow habitat as being biodiverse, but you'll actually find more species in meadow than you would in a forest. So you'll find a variety of different songbirds, different pollinators, different insects and things like that in that part. And then there's also a lot of forested areas too, and which is very, very important to to be preserving in such an area that is just so urbanized, like the city of Vaughan, yeah. So the KEFFER Marsh is a constructed wetland. It was constructed partially to help control drainage and things like that. And it was also identified as a good area that you could actually construct a marsh. You need to have an area that's already fairly wet to begin with, and it's been really, really successful. You can find a lot of different species there. There's a couple of problems with some invasive species starting to move in, but with some careful monitoring and mitigation strategies to deal with that, we are making it a little bit better, yeah. There are a few identified species of concern that are in that area, so you do have some different songbirds and things like that. There isn't any endangered species, I would say, in that area, or at least not that I've been able to find. But that isn't to say that if the habitat improves over the next few years, if we really move forward with this regeneration plan and improve the health of that habitat, we might actually get to see some endangered or threatened species in that area. Vaughan is a very densely urbanized area, and you see the spread of more development almost on a daily basis. So to be able to preserve these little veins of green throughout that area is super, super important. These are spaces that people might think of them as belonging to the city or belonging to TRCA, but that's not the case. These belong to the community, and so the community needs to be able to go in and take ownership of that area and really see it as their own backyards. When you go to a place like the KEFFER Marsh, you can't hear the traffic as much, you can't see the buildings as much, even though you're in a very actually industrial area. You can't really see it. So it's this nice little oasis that unfortunately not enough people know about.
Definitely. Okay, perfect. And that covers just about everything.
Fabulous.
So that's perfect.